If the average citizen of the 31st century were to go to their local bookstore and purchase an atlas of the inner sphere, they'd perhaps notice a conspicuous absence within. One of the most infamous planets in human history, the border world of Andurien, source of so much bloodshed and arguably the progenitor to the wars that have been waging for over half a millennium, is nowhere to be found. It's no grand conspiracy, but merely the result of the collective human consciousness deciding that some things are best forgotten, and to speak of them is to needlessly open old wounds. And so, Andurien continues to be absent in many published works today. The planet itself, first colonised by the Scion Commonwealth in the 23rd century, had been taken by the Free Worlds League in 2369, one of the numerous worlds Franco Liao had willingly traded for time while he struggled to unify his realm into a force strong enough to fight off aggressors. Now though, Kerneth Liao wanted to make a name for himself by retaking those lost worlds, starting with the planets claimed by the Free Worlds League. The attack wasn't unexpected, as Peter Marek had been elected as Captain General of the Free Worlds League a few years earlier in anticipation. The Capellans first descended on the numerous worlds in the Andurien region, but the fighting soon spread along the entire border. Nor was the Free Worlds League the sole target of Kerneth's wrath, as in 2399, Liao forces carried out an orbital bombardment of Novaya Zemlya in the Federated Suns as retaliation for the destruction of Capella Prime. In the first 3 years of the war, things were going against the Free Worlds League, and several worlds including Andurien were lost. The disastrous defense of Kwamashu by Peter Marek in 2401 saw Parliament start to turn against him. This shift was championed by House Salage. Gradually, the power and authority of the Captain Generalcy was eroded, with the intent to reduce the influence of House Marek, the traditional holders of the title. Despite this outside interference, Peter Marek was able to formulate a plan to turn the tide in his favour. He launched a deep strike raid into the heart of the Capellan Confederation, taking aim at their capital Cyan, as well as Cordiaga and Capella. The goal was to relieve the pressure on his attackers by distracting Kerneth's commanders with attacks behind the lines. At first, the Liao forces pressed ahead, taking Algezar and Mosiro, but were eventually forced to divert some of their forces to protect their own worlds. The momentum had now swung firmly behind Marek, and soon Liao troops were withdrawing from the planets they had taken. A peace agreement signed in 2404 sought to resolve the Andurien issue for good by allowing those worlds to vote as to which nation they would belong to after a period of 10 years had passed, their eventual choice being to remain with the Free Worlds League. As well as the changes on the border, the Andurien War would bring about the rise of House Graham Marek and the creation of the 6th province in the Free Worlds League, the Duchy of Graham Marek. Even so, the fuse had now been lit and violence continued elsewhere along the border. In time, this would spread to encompass the entire inner sphere. A century would pass before another Mad Liao would set his sights on the Andurien worlds again. This time, it was lust that would bring about the destruction of so many lives. Calvin Liao, Chancellor of the Confederation, had been making repeated advances to the daughter of the Duke of Andurien, hoping that she would join his harem of 24 wives. Rebuffed at every turn, Calvin was eventually spurned into action, and in 2528 launched his offensive. This time, the conflict would engulf the entire Duchy of Andurien, and Liao troops could be found everywhere from Meadowvale to Fujidera. Facing Calvin was Captain General Albert Marek, whose superior military strategy was able to push back repeated Capellan assaults. In his anger, Calvin unleashed nuclear Armageddon on the Andurien worlds, launching the death toll into the millions. Nor was the target of the entire campaign, Lady Massilia Allard, spared from this fate, dying alongside thousands of other innocents in one of the blasts. Only the assassination of Calvin in 2530 allowed for an opportunity to end the conflict. His successor, Michael Liao, met with Albert on New Delos the following year at a meeting orchestrated by Deborah Cameron of the Terran Hegemony. It was agreed that the planets would be returned to the Free Worlds League, and as a restitution, the contested world of Hassad would also be offered in the treaty. And yet even this was not the end of the issue. Just 20 years later, the latest Chancellor, Terence Liao, saw a third Andurien campaign as a way to win support, and so kicked off yet another war in 2551. The aging Albert Marek returned to the field again, and by 56 had fought Liao to a standstill, again securing the planets for the Free Worlds League. This time, peace was orchestrated by Deborah Cameron's son, Ian, the new Director General of the Hegemony. The Treaty of Geneva settled the issue once and for all, but not in the way many expected. Having successfully won 2 campaigns, there was no doubt that Albert Marek had the strongest hand in the negotiations, but he and Ian Cameron had even greater ambitions.